Back in 2016, I got my first graphic pen display tablet, which is a Nova 20-inch. So I made a video reviewing it, and I did a speed draw of Goku Black, because back then that's when he first went Super Saiyan Rose and he was all the hype and everything. Now what I didn't know was that 3 years later, people would still be holding that image above my head and roasting me for it to this day. Now it was my first time ever drawing on a pen display tablet, but regardless, the finished image was complete crap. So in the last 3 years, I've been practicing every single day, and I've learned a lot about animation and art in general, and I feel like I've improved quite a bit. So what I'd like to do is take some time here to redraw my notoriously bad Goku Black Rose and see what 3 years of practice can accomplish. Good God, it's so bad. I should have never made that video public. All right, before I jump into this video and start talking about the image that I'm going to draw and how I've improved, the number one way that I've improved is taking my time. Now, I rush everything. I always feel the stress and the pressure of deadlines and of making everything fast, because especially with YouTube, it's more about the amount of content you produce, and that really hindered me as an artist. If you want to be a good artist and you want to get better, don't be afraid to just simply take your time, redraw things, erase the face, and redo it if you have to. If you want to, it's okay. Just take your time and make sure it's perfect before you show the world. All right, so let's go ahead and jump in here, and let me at least tell you what I've learned. First of all, doing construction lines, right? Now, I don't like to draw these flat images anymore. I think it's like a very novice thing when you only draw a front-facing picture of a character, and also close-ups are easy as well. I've started to draw more dynamic angles and positions and challenging myself, and that's one of the ways that I've started to grow as an artist, is trying to do things that I'm uncomfortable with. One being like body parts and things like that. I'm very, very comfortable with close-ups. I'm too comfortable, in fact, because that's all I used to ever draw, which is a very novice thing. But for the purpose of this video and redrawing that old image, obviously, I'm going to have to do that here. Now, one thing I learned is to essentially start with construction lines. I never used to do construction lines before, which is another very novice and amateur style. Only like the masters, like the proest of pros, don't need to use construction lines, and some of them even still do that to this day. And what I basically do is I use my first layer of a very free-handed, very sketchy style drawing in gray. I can kind of just play around with the anatomy of the face and the structure and things like that before I actually go in and start cleaning it up and doing the line work, which is what you're supposed to do. I never really used to do that, and that's one of the things that improved my art skill. Now, I'm still not perfect. I'm still learning and growing as an artist, and I still have a lot of work to do, and even this finished image isn't perfect either. Definitely a massive improvement over the first Goku Black I drew, but you can see some of my like self-doubt like coming into play as I'm rearranging eyes and moving pieces around, which is perfectly fine. But sometimes I look at my image and I'm like, oh, I don't like this, and I move things around. I'll erase the whole face after I drew it and redraw it and things like that. But sometimes you just have to do that. You know, if you do your construction lines perfectly, you won't have to do that. But even till the very end of the image here, I'm still like correcting, you know, things like moving the nose around just a little bit and stuff like that. One other thing, I learned a bunch of techniques with shading, which have helped me quite a bit, understanding the light sources and primarily just studying the hell out of Dragon Ball to learn how they do the shading, which is, to be honest, much different than most anime style of shading, because Dragon Ball characters are polygons, they're shapes, and if you want to get good at Dragon Ball shading, you have to understand the shapes that are involved with the anatomy. So there's a lot of different ways to shade Dragon Ball characters. I really like the Buu arc style, the Takahashi style, and that's something that I've been teaching myself and studying and learning so that I can mimic it better. I also learned some other coloring tricks, just using vector lines and things like that. With these red lines you'll see everywhere, that's how I'm coloring. Obviously in Photoshop and other programs you color it very differently. And by the way, Adobe Animate is horrible for drawing. When you use other drawing programs like Clip Studio Paint or even Photoshop, you notice that the lines are so much better. It actually, I gotta say, and this, I'm not just saying this to to make myself feel better about my image here, but drawing and animate is complete crap. Like, it really reduces your overall drawing skill dramatically in like the color of your image, because it just completely messes up your line work. It automatically smoothens lines. You get these knots in your lines. It doesn't feel like an actual brush. And so what you have to do is actually use a lot of the line tool and just bend it in order to get those like crisp lines that in other programs you honestly wouldn't really have to do. So Adobe Animate is really good for animation because it gives you things like symbols and tweens, which a lot of other programs don't. It makes just like reusing vectors like incredibly easy. Like if you want to reuse a body part like an arm or a hand or an eye, or make a symbol of like a cape flapping that you can reuse over and over again, Adobe Animate gives you those benefits, which makes animation very, very fast if you're doing like a big production. But in terms of drawing overall, it's horrible. It is the worst program for drawing, and it really hinders you as an artist. So if you're just doing some sort of still frame, I recommend just learning Photoshop for that, or Clip Studio Paint. I'm just drawing Animate because I'm most familiar with it. I'm still not an expert at Photoshop yet, but here you go, guys. Here's the final image. As you can see, it looks pretty good. I think you know, there's still some issues. It could be improved, but 3 years, quite a difference. My God, my goodness, look at that. Again, this is a very easy image to draw. It's just a face shot. It's looking at the camera. It's not a difficult image. If you really want to challenge yourself in art, do some foreshortening, do some very difficult perspective style artwork, and really challenge yourself. And the more you put yourself in those uncomfortable situations, drawing things that you're not good at, the better you're gonna get at those. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a thumbs up, and I'll be doing some more speed draws soon. Talk to you later.